The battle for Zephora had reached a brutal standstill. The sky was a swirling mass of fire, smoke, and flashing laser bolts. The once proud cities now lay in ruins, shadows of their former selves. Commander Aaron crouched behind a shattered wall, panting but unyielding. Around him, the sounds of war echoed like thunder, distant explosions, frantic orders, and the relentless roar of Deathworlder warriors in combat. Aaron's mind raced. They had called for help, and the Deathworlders answered. But this was far from the aid they expected. These warriors were fierce, merciless, and terrifying, yet undeniably effective. The alien invaders, however, had not given up. Their forces were vast, their technology devastating. The fight was far from over. Beside Aaron, Lyra tightened her grip on her weapon, eyes scanning the horizon. "We can't hold much longer," she muttered, voice low, but fierce. "They keep coming." Suddenly, a shadow flickered in the smoke. A Deathworlder warrior, his armor scorched but still intact, raised a hand. His deep voice cut through the chaos. "Reinforcements approaching from Sector 7. We must fall back and regroup." Aaron nodded grimly. "A retreat, but not without a fight." As they moved, the alien forces pressed their advantage, pushing the defenders back step by step. The Deathworlders formed a protective shield around the Zifron civilians fleeing the battle zones. Their brutal efficiency saved countless lives, but it came at a heavy cost. Every warrior bore scars, some fresh, some old, marking the brutal price of survival on Deathworlds. In the command ship orbiting above, Captain Kale stared at the holomap, his sharp eyes calculating every move. "They underestimate us," he muttered. "We fight not just for Zephora, but for the honor of all Deathworlds." A sudden alert flashed on the control panel. Sensors detected a massive energy buildup near the enemy's flagship. Kale's eyes narrowed. "Prepare the disruptor cannon," he ordered. "This ends now." Back on the ground, Aaron's group reached the rendezvous point. The Deathworlders secured the perimeter, weapons ready. Suddenly, the sky above exploded with light as the disruptor cannon fired. A massive pulse of energy raced across the battlefield, smashing through enemy shields and crippling their fleet. The alien ships faltered, their formation broken. Cheers rose among the defenders. Hope surged like a tidal wave. Lyra looked at the Deathworlders, respect shining in her eyes. "Maybe this fight isn't lost." Kale's voice crackled through the coms, cold and commanding. "Stay sharp. The enemy will not fall so easily." The battle had turned, but the war for Zephora was far from over. As the Deathworlders prepared to press their advantage, Aaron knew one thing for sure. Survival would demand every ounce of courage, strength, and sacrifice from them all. The war for Zephyr had stretched to its breaking point. The alien invaders, weakened but desperate, launched one last ferocious assault. Explosions lit the darkened skies as ground forces clashed in a brutal melee. Commander Aaron, bloodied but unbowed, stood alongside the Deathworlder warriors each, a living legend forged on the harshest planets in the galaxy. "Hold the line," Aaron shouted, voice raw but resolute. "For Zephora, for survival." The Deathworlders roared in response, their battle cries echoing across the shattered city. They moved with deadly precision, cutting down enemies with savage efficiency. Even the most advanced alien technology faltered against their relentless fury. Above, Captain Kale coordinated the fleet, directing laser strikes and ground reinforcements. Disruptor cannon's pulse still resonated in the enemy ships, leaving them vulnerable suddenly. A monstrous alien commander emerged, a towering figure with biomechanical armor glowing with lethal energy. It was clear this was the brain behind the invasion. Aaron locked eyes with the alien leader. "This ends here." The two charged toward each other amid the chaos, clashing in a titanic battle of strength and will. Around them, the fight surged. Like a storm, but all eyes were on this final duel, with a powerful strike. Aaron disarmed the alien commander, sending his weapons skittering across the rubble. The alien staggered, stunned by the defiance. Deathworlder warriors surged forward, their weapons blazing. The invaders faltered, then broke. Fleeing into the void of space, the war was over. Exhausted but victorious, Aaron and Kale met amid the ruins. "You fought well," Kale said, nodding with respect. "Perhaps the galaxy needs more alliances like this." Aaron smiled, hope shining through the grime and blood. "We called for help, and we got more than we expected." Above the stars gleamed quietly, as if the galaxy itself breathed a sigh of relief. But deep in the void, distant shadows stirred, a reminder that the fight for survival was never truly over. In the vastness of space, where stars blink like distant fires, a signal suddenly echoed through the silence. A call for help. It was not an ordinary signal. It was a SOS, and it came from a place no one had ever dared to explore before. The crew of the Deathworlder fleet, known across the galaxy as the most dangerous and feared species, immediately recognized the signal. Their ships, dark and powerful, moved quickly toward the source. For decades, the Deathworlders had been the hunters, the conquerors. But this call was different. It was a warning, a plea, and maybe a trap. Captain Rowland stood on the bridge of the lead ship, her eyes fixed on the screen. The signal's origin was a small remote planet hidden in a star system far from any known trade routes. This planet was a mystery, a place marked only on old maps as forbidden. No one had ever sent a signal from there before. "Why now?" Rowland whispered. "Who would call for help from a death world?" Her first officer, Torin, frowned. "It could be a trap, Captain. We must be ready for anything." But curiosity burned inside Rowland. She was not just a warrior. She was a seeker of truth. She ordered the fleet to prepare for landing. As the ships approached the planet, a strange feeling of unease spread through the crew. The planet looked alive, and a strange wet surface was covered with dark forests, towering mountains, and glowing rivers that no one understood. When the first landing team touched down, the atmosphere was thick and heavy. The air smelled strange, like metal and fire mixed together. Ground beneath them felt unstable, as if the planet itself was breathing. The team moved cautiously, their weapons ready. Suddenly, their sensors picked up movement. Shadows flickered between the trees, and strange sounds echoed through the forest. It was clear they were not alone. Back on the ship, Rowland watched every moment. The signal was still coming, steady and strong. But something was wrong. The signal was not just a call for help, it was a warning. A voice came through the ship's communicator. "Do not trust the signal. Death lies beneath." Before anyone could react, the planet trembled. Ground cracked open, revealing strange machines buried deep inside. The Deathworlders had landed on a world filled with ancient war technology. Dormant, but waiting. The suspense grew with every second. What secrets did this planet hide? Why was the SOS sent? And most importantly, was the fleet prepared to face what was coming? As the darkness closed in, and the first stars of the planet's night appeared, the Deathworlder fleet prepared for the fight of their lives. The most dangerous species in the galaxy had answered the call. Now, the real danger was about to begin. Deathworlder fleet's massive ships hovered silently over the strange planet's surface. The dark clouds swirled above, casting eerie shadows across the jagged mountains and thick forests below. The planet looked dangerous and friendly. But the SOS signal was strong, and the fleet had orders: investigate and find the source. "Captain?" Rowland stood on the bridge of the lead ship, her eyes never leaving the swirling storm outside. Her mind raced with questions. What kind of creature could survive here? Who could send a call for help from such a place? A team of scouts prepared to land. They were the best, strong, smart, and ready for anything. Among them was Yarrick, a seasoned explorer with a sharp eye and calm nerves. As the transport ship broke through the thick atmosphere, the air grew heavy and strange. It felt like the planet was alive, watching their every move. The landing was rough. The ship shook violently. As it touched down on rocky ground, outside, the world was unlike anything the scouts had ever seen. Trees with black leaves stretched high into the sky. Strange plants glowed faintly, lighting the shadows. The air was thick with a sharp metallic scent that made breathing difficult. Keep your eyes open, Yarrick ordered. We don't know what's waiting for us. The team moved carefully through the forest. Every step was tense. The silence was broken only by distant sounds, something moving, something watching. Suddenly, a low growl echoed from the darkness. The scouts raised their weapons, shining their lights toward the noise. But nothing appeared. They pressed forward, following the direction of the SOS signal. It led them deeper into the forest, toward a valley surrounded by towering cliffs. The signal grew stronger, here more urgent. Then, the ground beneath them shook. A loud rumble split the air. The cliffs cracked open, revealing hidden entrances carved deep into the rock. "It's a cave," Yorick said, his voice low. "Something is inside." The team entered carefully. The cave was vast, filled with strange machines and glowing panels. It looked like an ancient base, abandoned but still active. The walls hummed with energy and the air buzzed with tension. Suddenly, a screen flickered on. Symbols and warnings flashed in a language none of them recognized. Then, the message appeared in clear words. "Warning, hostile defenses active." The scouts froze. The SOS was not just a call for help, it was a trap. Outside, the storm worsened. The fleet's ships rocked in the turbulent atmosphere. On the planet's surface, unseen eyes watched the scouts' every move. Captain Raylan's voice came over the communicator, calm but firm. "Return to the ship immediately. This planet is more dangerous than we thought." The scouts had seen too much to turn back now. Something was alive, here something powerful and deadly. As the first lightning flashed across the dark sky, the Deathworlder fleet braced itself. The unknown planet had welcomed them with a deadly secret, and the real battle was about to begin. The forest was alive with shadows. Strange noises echoed all around as the Deathworlder scouts moved cautiously through the thick underbrush. The air was heavy and sharp, making every breath a struggle. The team's eyes darted from tree to tree, searching for any sign of danger. Yarrick led the group, his senses sharp. He knew this planet was different, deadly, in ways they had never seen before. The ground beneath their feet was soft but uneven, covered with strange plants that seemed to move when no one was looking. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the trees. Ahead, the team froze. Out of the darkness, a large creature burst through the bushes. It was unlike anything they had encountered: twisted limbs, glowing eyes, and sharp claws that scraped the rocks. Weapons raised. The scouts fired. The creature howled, but it did not fall. It lunged forward again, fast and furious. The team barely escaped, running deeper into the forest. Hearts pounding, they realized this planet was alive with dangers far worse than they imagined. As they pressed on, the terrain became harder. Jagged rocks and toxic plants made every step dangerous. The planet seemed to fight them, testing their strength and will to survive. Tension grew among the team. Arguments broke out. Some wanted to turn back, but Yarrick's voice was firm. "We came here for answers. We can't leave until we find the source of that SOS." Back on the fleet's lead ship, Captain Rowland watched the planet through powerful sensors. The readings were disturbing. The planet's environment was hostile not just physically, but chemically and biologically. The atmosphere contained unknown elements that could harm even the strongest Deathworlders over time. Suddenly, alarms blared. The sensors detected a massive movement nearby. Something was coming. Something big. The crew prepared for an attack. The tension on the ship matched that of the scouts below. On the ground, the scouts reached a clearing. In the center stood an ancient structure covered with vines and glowing symbols. It was the source of the SOS. Before they could approach, the earth shook violently. From beneath the structure, machines began to rise: metal arms, glowing eyes, and weapons long dormant but now awake. The scouts barely had time to react as the machines advanced. The forest erupted into chaos. Captain Raylan's voice came through the cum. "Hold your ground. Reinforcements are on their way. Survival is not guaranteed." The Deathworlders faced their greatest challenge yet.
Ow.
On this hostile planet, every second counted. Trust was their only weapon against the unknown terrors. The ancient machines moved with frightening precision. Their metal limbs clanked as they emerged from the ground, eyes glowing with cold blue light. The Deathworlder. Scouts froze for a moment, stunned by the sudden threat. These were not ordinary machines. They were war machines built long ago, but still deadly. Yarrick shouted, "Prepare to fight." "These things are alive and dangerous," cried the scouts. "Open fire," lasers and plasma bolts cutting through the air. But the machines barely flinched. They blocked attacks with armored shields and countered with sharp blades and powerful energy blasts. One machine knocked a scout to the ground with a single strike. Back on the ship, Captain Rowland gripped the control panel tightly. "These machines. They must be part of the planet's defense system," she said, eyes narrowing. "Someone built this world to protect something important." Sensors showed that the machines were connected to a huge underground base. The signal for help was coming from inside it. But why? Was someone trapped? Or was it a warning to keep intruders away? Yarrick and his team fought hard to reach the base. Entrance. Every step was a battle. They dodged attacks, protected each other, and pushed forward through the chaos. Suddenly, one of the scouts yelled, "Look, there's a control panel here." Yarrick rushed over and examined it. The symbols on the panel matched the warnings from before. He quickly pressed buttons, trying to find a way to shut down the machines. Come on," he muttered. Then with a loud hum, the machines slowed down. Their glowing eyes dimmed. It seemed the control panel was linked to their power source, but the relief was short-lived. The ground trembled beneath them. A new threat was rising. From deep underground, a massive war machine began to surface larger and more powerful than any they had seen. Its eyes burned red, and its weapons looked ready to destroy everything. Captain Rowland's voice was tense. "This is no ordinary defense system. It's a weapon, and it's waking up." The fleet above prepared for battle, weapons charging and shields raising. The Deathworlders were about to face their deadliest enemy yet, a weapon built to destroy whole worlds. The unknown enemy was no longer hidden. It was ready to fight. The fight against the ancient machines was fierce. The Deathworlder scouts had barely managed to slow them down. But a new danger was growing one. From within their own ranks, Yarrick's team had been moving deeper into the underground base when a sudden message came through the communicator. It was from one of their own, Lyra, the communications officer, Captain Rowland. "I'm detecting unauthorized signals inside the ship," she warned. "Someone is sending data to an unknown source. It looks like a betrayal." Rowland's face hardened. "Who? Find out now." But it was too late. The traitor had already made their move. In the dark corridors of the flagship, a figure moved silently. This was Kale, a trusted crew member who had been with the fleet for years. But now, his loyalty was broken. He had his own secret reasons. For siding with the enemy reasons no one knew. Kale accessed the ship's main weapons system and began to disable key defenses. His plan was clear: sabotage the fleet from inside, allowing the ancient weapon to destroy them all. Back on the planet, Yarrick sensed something was wrong. Communications grew unstable. The support ships were losing power. He called Rowland urgently. "Captain, something's wrong on the fleet. We're losing connection." Rowland's voice was steady but filled with worry. "There's a traitor, Yarrick. Someone close to us. We must stop him before it's too late." Meanwhile, Kale was almost finished with his sabotage. He smiled darkly, knowing the chaos he was about to unleash. But as he worked, he heard footsteps behind him. "Kale," a voice said quietly. It was Lyra. "You don't have to do this." "Why betray your own people?" Kale turned, eyes cold. "You don't understand. This fleet is doomed unless we change the rules." Lyra shook her head. "We survive together, or we die alone." The choice was clear, but Kale had already made his. Attacked. A quick fight broke out. Lyra managed to send a warning signal to Rowland before she was forced to retreat. The betrayal had been revealed, but the damage was done. The fleet's defenses were down. The ancient war machine on the planet was awakening faster than anyone expected. The Deathworlders were trapped between an enemy outside and a traitor inside. The real battle had only just begun. The Deathworlder fleet was on the edge of disaster. The ancient war machine below the planet's surface was waking faster than anyone had predicted. Its massive metal body began to rise from the depths. Shaking the very ground the scouts had fought so hard to hold, Captain Rallen's voice echoed through the command deck, calm but urgent. All units, prepare for immediate evacuation. The weapon will be active soon. We don't have much time. But leaving the planet wasn't easy. Traitor, Kale, had done serious damage to the fleet's defense systems. Some ships struggled to maintain power, while others were completely dark. The enemy machines above and below the planet were closing in. Yarrick and his team rushed back toward the surface, fighting their way through collapsing tunnels and automated defenses that had come alive with deadly force. We have to get to the extraction point. Yarrick shouted over the chaos. We can't let the fleet down. The ancient war machine had begun firing powerful energy blasts. The explosions rocked the planet's surface and sent shockwaves through the fleet above. Several ships were hit, their hulls torn apart. On the flagship, engineers worked furiously to repair damaged systems. Sparks flew, alarms blared, but the crew pushed through. Rallen stared at the control panel, searching for any way to turn the tide. Then, a discovery. A hidden code deep inside the planet's ancient base. It was a control override. If activated, it could shut down the war machine, Yarrick, she said urgently over the comms. There's a way to stop the weapon. You must find the override control and activate it. It's our only chance. Her ex-team changed course. They knew this mission could be their last. But there was no other choice. The path to the control room was filled with danger traps, hostile machines, and the collapsing base itself. Each step was a fight against time. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached the control room. The walls were covered in strange symbols and glowing lights. In the center stood the override panel. Yarrick took a deep breath and began entering the code. Suddenly, the room shook violently. The war machine's power surged, trying to stop them. With a final push, Yarrick activated the override. The lights flickered, the machine slowed, and silence fell. The weapon was shutting down, but as relief spread through the team, new alarms sounded on the fleet. Kale's sabotage had one last hidden effect: a countdown. Time was running out. The countdown echoed through the Deathworlder fleet's command center like a ticking bomb. Every second felt heavier than the last. Captain Rallen's eyes were locked on the screen, watching the numbers drop. The sabotage had left a deadly trap, a self-destruct sequence that would blow the entire fleet to pieces, if not stopped in time. Everyone, brace for impact, Rallen ordered. We have to stop Kale's countdown before it's too late. Yarrick and his team were racing back from the control room, their bodies tired, but their spirits strong. They knew the fate of the fleet rested on their shoulders. Suddenly, communications went dead. The enemy war machines were jamming their signals, cutting them off from the flagship. On the ground, the massive ancient war machine stirred one last time. Its red eyes glowed fiercely, its weapons charged and ready to destroy everything in its path. The scouts formed a defensive line, prepared to face the deadly machine in one final battle. Yarrick's voice was calm but determined. We fight for survival. No one gives up. Meanwhile, back on the flagship, Rallen confronted Kale. The traitor stood near the main control panel, his face cold but defiant. Why, Kale? Why betray us? Rallen asked, her voice steady. Kale smiled darkly. The fleet was weak. We needed change. I did what was necessary. Your betrayal almost destroyed us, she said. But it won't succeed. With a sudden move, Rallen disabled Kale's control access, stopping the countdown. The fleet systems began to reboot, lights flickering back to life. At that moment, the scouts below launched their final attack on the ancient war machine. Laser fire and explosions lit up the battlefield. The massive machine staggered but did not fall. Yarrick shouted, aimed for the core. That's the only way. With a coordinated strike, the scouts hit the war machine's core. The giant weapon shook violently, sparks flying from broken circuits. Finally, with a deafening roar, it collapsed, lifeless. The battle was over, but the cost was high. Many ships were damaged, and some scouts were lost. Captain Raylan stood tall, proud of her crew's bravery. The Deathworlder fleet had survived the deadliest threat in the galaxy for now. The ancient war machine lay in ruins, silent beneath the dark skies of the hostile planet. The battle was won, but the cost was clear. Many brave Deathworlders had fallen, and the fleet was badly damaged. The air was heavy with loss and relief. Captain Raylan stood on the bridge of the lead ship, watching as the planet slowly disappeared behind them. Her mind was filled with questions. What was the true purpose of that weapon? Who had built it? Why had they sent the SOS signal that almost led to their destruction? The crew worked tirelessly to repair the fleet. Systems were rebooted, engines repaired, and shields reinforced. But beneath the surface, a new worry grew, a warning from the planet's ancient systems. A message flashed on the main screen, faint but clear. The threat is only beginning. Raylan's eyes narrowed. Somewhere out there beyond the stars, a greater danger was waiting. The Deathworlder fleet had faced death and betrayal, but their journey was far from over. Yarek, now back on the flagship, looked out at the stars. "This isn't the end," he said quietly to Raylan. "It's just the beginning." The fleet moved forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever came next. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries and dangers. But the most dangerous species had survived the greatest challenge yet, and they were ready for what lay ahead as the stars stretched out before them. The Deathworlder fleet disappeared into the darkness, the echoes of their battle fading, but their story far from over.